Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and this week in the War Within Alpha, we got a fairly sizable build, which gives us a brand new zone to explore. The zone being Hollowfall, probably my favorite zone so far out of the lineup for the War Within Alpha. With the brand new zone, we got a couple of new dungeons, as well as some more delves to dive into, but also a ton of new class changes and hero specs for us to explore. And one of the classes that saw a sizable change, a surprising change, is the Retribution Paladin, which changes how they'll be able to utilize their Avenging Crusade main burst cooldown, where they get to reduce the downtime of their ability down to just 30 seconds, but potentially gain far more uptime than ever before. So today I wanted to cover this exciting new development for Retribution Paladins and why I'm actually very excited to pick this up as one of my very first classes I'm looking to level in once War Within launches, if this change makes it all the way past the alpha and beta development. But right before that, most of you guys watching these alpha videos are still not subscribed. However, the more of you remind, the more of you do, so let's keep it going. Subscribe to the channel and ring the bell if you're watching these videos anyway. Especially if you want to get more regular content regarding Dragonflight patch 10.26, 10.7, Season 4, or any of the future War Within updates. So let's first talk about some of the different changes that happened to Paladin's talents. First of all, we have a brand new way to apply wings to your Paladin, and that's going to be through a new talent found through the Wake of Ashes side of the talent tree. It is called Radiant Glory, which replaces your Avenging Wrath or Crusade entirely. Wake of Ashes now grants you Avenging Wrath for 10 seconds. Your other damage and abilities also have a chance to grant Avenging Wrath for 5 seconds, and this value slightly adjusts depending if you're playing the Avenging Wrath, the original Wings version, or the Crusade version. With the Crusade one, it's going to be a 12-second window with a bit of a haste buff ramp, but it's going to retain that same Crusade impact and same gameplay, just proccing off of your Radiant Glory ability. Which means the wings essentially could be used once every 30 seconds instead of once every minute or once every 2 minutes with Crusade, which adjusts the Paladin's window entirely when it comes to your burst capabilities. Plus, it also provides you procs of wings, and I don't really know exactly, but it seems that the proc rate is fairly generous. It almost feels like it procs twice a minute, but that's a very feely craft statement. Either way, this talent creates for an interesting opportunity when it comes to Paladins and the overall gameplay. The fact that wings can be used as often as it can be, there are some new synergies that can be utilized with this as well. Normally, Paladins don't have too many 30-second cooldowns to line up with this together, but Execution Sentence is a perfect contender that ends up working out quite nicely inside of this new 30-second burst window. And these mini burst windows synergize depending on whether you are running the Herald of the Sun hero spec or if you're running the Templar hero spec, and both of them synergize in different ways. Initially, this was intended to be a Herald of the Sun type of a buff, to be able to allow your Paladin to utilize Sun's avatar ability, where Avenging Wrath is going to bind you with 2 enemies that have Dawnlight's debuff on them, creating some AoE damage between you and your targets, but also allowing you to benefit more from Dawnlight to make the Herald of the Sun hero spec a little bit more competitive. However, even with Templar, because of the way that their main ability works, after Wake of Ashes you gain the ability Hammer of Light, which gives you quite a bit of burst that can be combined together. Let's say you're playing Avenging Wrath, the 1-minute Wings version for Retribution Paladin, Light's Guidance and Hammer of Light would end up combining together inside of your Wings window, and then you would get a free dry Hammer of Light without wings. But this changes it so that Hammer of Light always gets the full empowerment from your Avenging Wrath or a Crusade window, whichever one you end up playing at the end of the day. And I've been able to test out both hero specs with this type of playstyle, and I've been trying out together with Crusade as well as Avenging Wrath, and at the end of the day you do get slightly different gameplay. Though because the procs of Radiant Glory seem to be generous enough, at least the free procs for Crusade, which gives you 6 seconds worth of a duration, it allows you to chain Crusade, since this ability, if you're playing the Crusade Wings version, this needs to be ramped up. However, it feels like pretty regularly inside of my Wake of Ashes window, I will get at least 1 extra chain, or in more cases I usually get 1 extra chain more than I don't, to be able to prolong that Crusade window just a little bit further. which allows me to have a solid ramp while still being able to execute all of my abilities inside of the powerful burst that is the Templar Paladin. However, if you want a little bit more consistency and you want to ignore ramp together, Herald of the Sun does end up synergizing with this pretty well because it offers you consistency with this type of Paladin while also letting you lean into the entire Herald of the Paladin Dawnlight playstyle. But there is also a little bit of a caveat to this ability and the way that it procs. Right now, the random procs of wings do end up overwriting your actual Wake of Ashes procs. Instead of adding on to the duration, it'll instead, let's say if you have 3 seconds left over, it'll override those 3 seconds with a 6-second duration, causing you to lose some uptime. But I assume, like with all things in the alpha, this is just one of those things that will likely be ironed out over time if this talent even makes it past the very first few weeks of alpha in general. And while this new wings window is the highlight of this Paladin update, Paladins did get a couple of other additional changes in this most recent alpha build as well, like a defensive adjustment as of this recent build. You'll see there's a new choice node below Wake of Ashes, which is now going to be Aegis of Protection, which buffs Divine Protection, your main wall ability, your main big defensive ability, to make it more effective, increasing the damage reduction by 20 additional %. And baseline wall already gives you 20% damage reduction for 8 seconds, so this way you'll be able to increase it to 40%. But it's also on the same choice node as Shield of Vengeance. So it looks like Shield of Vengeance is now going to be a choice node between getting a better version of wall or an absorb shield with Vengeance, plus also a smaller version of wall. This creates a situation where Paladin could actually make for a pretty impactful talent choice here, where in PvP you may actually want to have 2 defensives to spread in between of combat encounters, but in a PvE type of scenario, if you know a massive attack is going to hit you and an absorb is not going to be enough to keep you alive, then going for a stronger defensive wall might be the play if you are ever going to be in trouble once a minute throughout an encounter. And besides this, we also have some of the smaller changes also to further help out Herald of the Sun just a little bit, with things like Expurgation, which is the damage over time ability that you get from using Blades of Justice. This damage over time now, from the radiant damage, the burn, is now going to actually take the remaining damage when you reapply Expurg on a target, and that remaining initial damage is being reapplied into your next Blade of Justice Expurg dot, which allows the damage over time ability to retain some of its value. Then you have the ability of Templar Strikes, which has gone through quite a bit of a change. Instead of being a 3-part ability, it's a 2-part ability. The first part is going to be a simple Holy Strike that's going to deal damage and then be changed into a Templar Slash. Templar Slash is going to strike the enemy for Holy Strike damage and then burn the enemy for additional 50% of the damage that it deals over 4 seconds. The burn is also going to have some interaction with the Herald of the Sun as well, since it has some healing over time, but also damage over time mechanics included. And making it a 2-part ability allows you to generate your holy power fairly quickly while being able to complete the entire rotation just a little bit faster. Although it's hard to tell if this is ever going to be competitive against Crusading Strikes, since Crusader Strikes has been so good ever since they added it, I think during the initial Paladin rework in the early days of Dragonflight. But being able to synergize Templar Strikes with some of the damage over time value that comes with the Herald of the Sun has been interesting, and it feels like the 2 abilities are now starting to maybe adapt into themselves, and hopefully the synergy with Herald of the Sun will be strong enough to potentially unlock the Templar Strikes playstyle. And to no surprise, this was a very enjoyable playstyle, since the whole Wake of Ashes procs for wings doesn't alter the damage and the power of wings. It just gives you a slightly smaller window where wings can remain powerful. But the random procs of wings, especially when they synergize inside of my Wake of Ashes window, give you a long enough duration of wings where it feels like you're getting far more value than running the normal minute wings or the 2-minute Crusader. And if they do maintain this generous proc rate from your basic abilities for wings, then I think the Crusader playstyle in particular is going to be quite powerful, especially since it has a bit more of a haymaker playstyle where you really do want to ramp it up as much as you can. And it can offer you far more damage than a normal wings can, but the amount of time investment it takes in order to ramp up the ability fully would normally be difficult under normal circumstances with such a short window. But if this ability retains this type of generous proc rate, then I think it actually could work out to be a very powerful option, which could allow Crusade as well as Wings to be both a viable choice, depending if you play Herald or if you play Templar. And this number can then be further increased with Divine Wrath, which can give Crusade 15-second duration with Wake of Ashes, and an 8-second duration during a random proc. So you're looking at a guaranteed every minute, roughly 30 seconds of Crusade, and if you get 2 procs inside of that minute window, you're looking at 16 additional seconds, which gives you so much uptime on Wings. It is actually insane, and I wonder if it's modified by values such as haste, like if inside of a Bloodlust window are you getting potentially more procs during that uptime, and that is something that needs to be tested down the line. Kind of a surprising update for Paladins out of nowhere, and the little time that I get to spend with it over in the alpha, it actually feels pretty good to play, and it also removes a keybind out of your abilities completely, where Wake of Ashes becomes your big burst ability. But that's gonna be my entire overview. At the end of the day, I do want to hear you guys' thoughts in the comments down below. What are your thoughts on this newest Paladin change? Are you excited about a Wake of Ashes becoming your potential 30-second Wings window? Or are you not a big fan of this kind of change, and would you want Wings as well as Crusade to go back to the original form? Let me know all your thoughts, what you think about all of these changes in the comments down below. As per usual, if you guys enjoyed this video or found it informative, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I would very much appreciate it. And as always, in the description of every single video and live stream, we have a link to our Discord community channel. Probably the best place to reach out to me directly in case you want to let me know what you thought about this video or hang out with the rest of the community to discuss some of the upcoming changes. Join our Discord to become part of the community. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. And as always, I'll see all of you guys in another video.